All right, hello guys. Today we're going to be live streaming about a possible snowstorm coming this Thursday and Friday to the Mid-Atlantic states as well as the Northeast states. I'm going to pull up the comment section real quick so that I can get those initial comments. Say hello to all of you. Did I do that real quick? This one always lags behind quite a bit, so I can't really see how many viewers there is. It updates like every like 20 seconds or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and find the live stream real quick, just because I like to say hi to you guys that do say hi right in the beginning. The ones who click on the notification or whatnot. All right. Sup, the Warrior, Tommy Green, what's going on? Slays, Weatherman 746, Mike O, Kane Darby, the Weather Boy, the Train Guy, Ramen Cromholes, yeah, Tim B, Faith, Shaven J, Swamper John Doe, how's it going, everybody? Fox Legends #1, Vince Ipolato, what's going on, man? So, like I said before, we're going to be talking about a snowstorm hitting Thursday, Friday time frame, maybe even into Saturday. We'll take a look at the timing and everything. Though that varies, does vary a lot. Two things I want to mention. We do have our subscriber counter up here in the top right. So if you do decide to subscribe at any point, and I do recommend that, if you do like weather-related content, your subscription will pop up right there, and you'll see the number rise. And also we have a Facebook group. This is a group that we've had for, I think, maybe 5 or 6 days now. Yeah, something like that. And we have 500. We're going on 500 members. It's a very active weather discussion group, so I highly recommend requesting to join that. One of our moderators will accept that as soon as possible, so you will be accepted into the group. So I highly recommend that. Okay, I will answer all your questions, so don't worry. Now, the weather group wanted to just show that right here. This is the page you'll be taken to, and you can request to join. And again, we have 464 members, so you can go ahead and do that. I can click off Facebook now, though. So, I got a comment about the experimental GFS. Now, the experimental GFS has been having major issues, especially on the Tropical Tidbits website, where it's actually overdone a lot of things here. And I'll talk a little bit about that. The normal GFS is having its issues as well. A lot of model issues this year so far. Very concerning stuff. A lot of the short-range models do really well, but the long-range models are just struggling badly. The medium-range models, even the European. So the experimental GFS, it's showing icy mix in here, likely rain for Southern Virginia and North Carolina. And really doesn't start to snow till about Winchester, Virginia, into York County, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. It's a lot more of a realistic solution. Now, here's the problem. It shows feet, a foot plus of snow for down here, and I just showed you where it's calling for rain. It's not calling for snow. So there's a major issue with the total snowfall map here, according to the GFS. So that's really why this is happening. Now, if anybody tries to tell you, I'll draw here. Really, if anybody is calling for snow anywhere, I mean, maybe we could see some snow for the mountains in here and potentially the mountains in here. Now, outside of those and really for the most part, anywhere south of that line is ridiculous. So for these areas, I'm not really buying anything. Wait till we see short range models. Again, we've been having snowstorms where they'll, call it out pretty early, having snowstorm for some of these areas, and then it just really ends up being mostly an interior northeast type snowstorm. And that's what I'm thinking for this one too. Judging based off of history, what we've had, you can kind of, I think southern New England has a pretty good shot here at seeing something. So for these areas, you have a pretty good shot. New York, I think this is overdone. I think basically all throughout this blue circle is overdone. But I think an inch or 2 or 3 in Connecticut, Rhode Island, southern Massachusetts isn't too ridiculous. So I definitely believe that that's possible. New York, probably an inch or 2. and anywhere again outside of this or inside this blue circle, you're also looking at an inch or two. I don't really think much more than that is too realistic. So until we get to the short range models, I'm not willing to jump on any type of heavy snow event for these areas just yet. Thanks for subscribing, Zero Glory. I saw your subscription come through, I believe. How much snow is expected for Thursday to Friday in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania? Now, I don't know specifically where that is, but I'll get more into my thoughts on total snowfall here. Buffalo, I think it really just depends. If it keeps trending east, which it has been, I think you're going to be kind of lacking precipitation for the most part. Most of the snow, I'm sure, is from lake effect for these areas. We'll take a look, though. Well, looks like could be, but this is a pretty low resolution model, so this is most likely just showers in these lighter blues, snow showers. That's what we typically expect. I want to take a look at the normal GFS. We're having some major issues, in my opinion, with this model specifically. Now, you look at the upper atmosphere here. I want to go. Can I get 500 millibar? There you go. Okay, so we see our storm system here. We see where a lot of this energy is built up, kind of inland, but a lot of that low pressure is a lot closer to the coast. So kind of Norfolk, Delaware, Jersey coast, and then kind of skims over Boston and goes a little bit out to sea from that point. When we look at the precipitation, there's a big difference here, though. We see our heavier precipitation much offshore, and kind of can't decide where the low pressure actually is here. It looks a lot like an ensemble forecast, which is very interesting. And now the CMC does a much better job of handling this, I think, so far, where it's going to keep that precipitation a lot closer. So as we take a look here, you'll notice that precipitation is where it should be, right where the low pressure system is. And that kind of tracks up the coast and keeps the heavier precipitation closer to the low pressure system itself, which is a much more realistic solution there. So as of right now, I mean, I've been really relying on the Canadian models so far this year, and it's really done me well. I think the Canadian model is doing really well, but specifically the RGEM and the even higher resolution HR DPS model, they've been doing absolutely phenomenal as far as short range modeling goes, and it's definitely helped out with forecasts a lot. It's basing my forecast off of history, recent history, and just other years history, what's typical for this time of year, and then picking a few models that have been doing good and deciding if they kind of agree with the historically accurate resolution. All right, I live in Western Maryland. Yes, big snow for me. We'll have to see. Again, I think really where I feel very confident about this snowstorm, I think the CMC again has a much more realistic solution. Starting out of snow for some of these areas, and really these areas kind of getting some snow in the beginning there, but really switching over to some sort of icy precipitation and maybe some back-end snow or rain showers here. But a lot of heavier precipitation goes to the interior New England, and we've had about 3 or 4 of these interior New England storms in the recent past here. And I would say it's quite realistic considering the pattern we're in, and really the previous storms have proven that it's realistic in this pattern. I really don't feel like Philadelphia is going to see much in amounts of snow here. I think they'll start out as snow and really just change to rain. I know a lot of people have probably been hearing a lot of hype as far as forecasts go. A lot of people putting out big-time snowfall maps, but I'm here to bring the more realistic and most likely more accurate forecast here, and that's that we will likely be looking at more icy precipitation here. And even you can see on this website, you'll notice that there should be snowfall here, where it's going to think there was snow when it was showing really a mix. So when it's showing an icy mix, you likely won't see 4 to even 5, 6 inches of snow here. So you can see how there's some issues with the total snowfall map here. How much snow do I think for Long Island? I think an inch or two is very possible, maybe even 3. That's what I'm thinking right now. How much for North Maryland? It really depends on east or west. But either way, I don't think anywhere in Maryland will see much more. I mean, 4 on a high end, I think. 4 inches on a high end. Maybe if you're in the mountainous regions, kind of north of Winchester, Virginia, I could see you maybe getting 4 to 6 inches, but that's on a very, if the storm works out in favor of a lot of snow for you, I think that's what you would be seeing. But for the most part, I think really an inch to 3 inches is a lot more realistic, if anything. All right. Will there be snow in northeast New Brunswick? I'll see in just a moment. I have a couple questions. One, do you see the European model for the weather and snow totals? And is there any way I can do like a GFS hour by hour model and look at it? And did you see the development in Atlantic the other day? It had a 90% chance. I don't necessarily understand that question. So if you could simplify that possibly. What about Northwest Middle Tennessee, Montgomery, Stewart County? All right, so with this one, here's I. Yeah, I think it really just depends how we see this one develop. It could possibly bring snowfall to these areas, but the models seem to be really favoring a small area of really big accumulating snow somewhere in Tennessee, and it's really hard to pinpoint that this early on. So you're still a day and a half away. Dude, look at the NAM. Well, I don't really believe the NAM. So I'll look at it, but the NAM, I've learned to really not put too much thought into what it shows. So what we have here is another case of mixing. So this is kind of looking like a high resolution, and it looks a lot more like the CMC here than the GFS. So that's the good news. So you see all this pink. This is where it's sleet and freezing rain, really for the most part. So very icy in there. And you see it's starting to snow a little bit there for Winchester and southern PA, but for the most part, sorry about that, I'm getting a text. So yeah, sorry, I got an important text right there. So I see it starting as a mix and then really snow here. Now, I'm not going to pay too much attention to how heavy of snow the NAM is showing and how much snowfall the NAM is showing, because the NAM has a very, very known bias for showing way too much snowfall or way too much precipitation in general. So usually with the NAM, I usually subtract about, maybe 40% or 30% of the precipitation. And for south of Pennsylvania here, I mean, you could subtract almost all of that, considering we know that it is calling for sleet and freezing rain. And it's important to note that on tropical tidbit maps, it makes sure to mention that it includes sleet. It doesn't subtract the sleet out. So it's really giving you a 10-to-1 ratio of liquid to snow ratio on sleet, which just doesn't happen at all. More like a 1-to-1 ratio with sleet. So yeah, not too much useful information here from the NAM. Has a cold and more precipitation bias for sure. I heard we were getting very cold in early December. Will I get a snowstorm in Norfolk, Virginia? I want to know. I'm heading to movies in 10 minutes. I've talked to you for probably months now on my live streams, and you continue to ask me questions about specific storms, but about a month out, and that's just not even possible. Maybe AccuWeather could tell you, but really it's not going to be accurate anyway. Northeast Pennsylvania looks right in the line in Scranton, and the surrounding mountains do a strange thing where they split the snow clouds in the valley, stays more dry. Very strange anomaly. Yeah, valleys bring really challenging I guess they bring a lot of challenges to forecasting in general. You know, you see warmer conditions in valleys a lot, or sometimes you see colder conditions, and you know, sometimes they have a lack of precipitation. So you always have to take them into account when forecasting. East Coast looks like it could have a white Thanksgiving. Well, if we stay on the track we're on, it looks like it. Right, Maiko, you can't see the European model on the tropical tidbits because it's actually a paid model. You have to pay to use it. There was a tropical disturbance in the Atlantic the other day that NHC was putting a 90% on for the next 5 days, but land interaction and less overall conductiveness brought it down. Yeah, I wasn't buying that one too much. Too much. Much for Staten Island? Well, right now I'm thinking 1 to 3 inches, if anything. I haven't really pinpointed this one too much. It's a little early to say exactly. So obviously this wouldn't be a final forecast, in my opinion, at all. I'll obviously be making a forecast on this storm later on, like I always do. Excuse me. So yeah, as we look here, this is another website that I highly recommend called weathermodels.com by Weather US. So weathermodels.com, you can search that up. It's a paid subscription, $10 a month. Very worth it. If weather information is useful to you, it's worth it. So the GFS, I don't believe goes on any website by 3 hours. I'm fairly certain of that. Unless this is proving me wrong here. And it doesn't have a snowfall map or anything like that. So it's not very useful here. Wait. Sometimes you have to, if you switch the navigation to something else. Nope. Okay. So yeah, you can't get hourly access. You can't get anything more than 6 hours, I don't think. So I will make sure here. Yeah. So yeah, you can only get 6 hours with this model, unfortunately. We need some snow in the colder it gets here, the more crime goes down. Thank God I'm 6'1", 250-pound weightlifter. No one tries to mug me, LOL. Odd flex, but okay. No, I'm just playing. It's cool. Western Maryland is 2,000 to 3,000 feet in elevation. We will get slammed. Well, there's a lot more that goes into it than elevation. NYC snowfall, Christopher. Yeah, so I think 1 to 3 inches as of right now. Could go up, could go down. That's a lot of New York City people have been in this stream asking me. That's my current thoughts. Let me try to zoom in here. Also, Christopher, could you link the Facebook group into the comment section? Would you be willing to do that for me? That'd be greatly appreciated. So people could just click it and go to the group, if that's possible. Get ready for a cold winter. By shouting out from Pennsylvania. Making sure I have enough wood. Don't know what that means. Have you talked about the ice storm potential as well? Yeah. So ice is a lot harder to forecast, but we do have a pretty big potential here for ice. I was actually just thinking, I was pretty curious to see how much better this website handles the snowfall amounts or precipitation type in general. So it's going to look real quick. Also, looking at snow depth could help as well. So yeah, it doesn't handle it too well. But if we look at snow depth, I'm assuming, yeah, a lot less down here. Snow depth is going to give you a lot more of a realistic forecast. It's going to give you melting and all sorts of stuff. So Connecticut totals, yeah, I think Connecticut you could be looking at anywhere from 1 to 3, and then in some of the northwestern portions of the Connecticut, maybe even 3 to 6. But it's a little early to say. Could go down, could go up. Shrek 5 is coming. You're actually my #1 weather source now. Well, I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully, I will never let you down. How much snow in DC? I think at this point, I think up to 1 inch. I think is possible, but I'm not going to say anything more than that. I think it could go down to where you get nothing, but I think 1 inch is possible if you do see snow. But I'm really weary about south of Pennsylvania for this one, especially in an area with no elevation really. Will Boston snow be followed by rain? I actually think Boston has a good chance of getting snow from this one. I think it's pretty possible, so I am a little bit more on board with snow for you guys. So I want to take a look here at the precipitation type for you in Boston. Now, the GFS wants to give you rain the whole time, and it's really ironic because it wants to, for some reason, show these areas getting 12 inches of rain or 12 inches of snow when they don't even get snow. But we get the more high resolution forecasts here. The NAM wants to give you quite a bit of snow. I think it's more possible that you get snow in the beginning rather than the end. I think I'll go ahead and say that. And the CMC wants to keep everything kind of warm, but it could be heavy snow for like 6 hours or something, followed by rain. That would take most of your totals down, but I think 3 inches is pretty possible if you can get pretty heavy snow rates there. Yeah, I think it's possible, Leah. I think Tennessee, Western Tennessee, I think you're getting anywhere from 1 to 5 inches there. There should be a bullseye of like 5 inches somewhere, but it's going to be a pretty small area, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint. I can look at what the RGEM model shows for you, and this will give a pretty good idea. By the way, RGEM, are you kidding me? Could be a major snowfall event for these areas. Very heavy snow. That's not a model that's known as much for overdoing precipitation, so I will buy that a lot more than the NAM. So yeah, I think, and I'll even go to my Futurecast radar here to answer your question. Actually, it doesn't cover that area. I'm sorry about that. Maybe that's not going to go out as far enough. Okay. Well, I have my handy-dandy interactive map here for you. So looking at Tennessee, I want to give you kind of a snowfall map here. And I'm going to draw a few lines, but I'm going to describe to you what each one means. So don't even worry, as something just crashed for sure. I don't know what, though. All right. So this pink line is kind of going to, or this pink area, sorry, if this will respond here. My computer is definitely a little bit overwhelmed right now, to say the least. All right. So really, we don't know. That snow line is going to set up somewhere in here, I'm assuming, in Tennessee. Now, where that sets up is really crucial, because if it sets up right here on the western edge, you're going to only get snow in these areas, obviously west of it. If it sets up more over here, then you're seeing a lot more snow in these areas. And really, if it sets up on the eastern edge of this pink line, then likely the areas inside the pink will get the heaviest snow amounts. So usually we're looking directly west of the rain snow line is where you're going to get the heaviest amounts, as long as there's not a lot of mixing. So right now, judging based off of what my future cast radar is showing me, and basically by history, I would say there's going to be a pretty wide area of maybe 1 to 2 inches. And I think that'll be really, for the most part, these areas. Okay, so these areas you're looking at 1 to 3 inches. Maybe 1 to 2, something like that. But I think somewhere in here is where you could get maybe 2 or 3 inches plus, so you can get above that amount. This is where we're looking at the biggest snowstorm. That could set up more over here. So that could set up over here or over here. It could set up anywhere in there. But I really think somewhere in this portion of the state is where you're going to be looking at that 2 or 3 inches and above. So I hope that answered your questions there. On the news, they said that on Thursday, snow would start around 1, and it would be 3 to 5 inches for North Jersey. All right. So I'm going to kind of have to take another reference look here. I've been focusing on the storm that just now is ending in the Northeast. So this is kind of a fresh new storm for me, so I'm just trying to get my bearings here on this one. I apologize for that, but I usually take it one storm at a time, so my focus has shifted to this storm this afternoon. So I'm kind of just now familiarizing myself with what I think about this one. Yeah, so North Jersey, I'm a little bit weary. Okay, so even the snowier of the models isn't really showing that much snow. It might show it here for some reason. Again, the GFS has been really messing up. But you look at the precipitation type, and it's maybe 3 hours of snow followed by 3 hours of freezing rain followed by maybe 12 hours of rain. So you tell me where you see 5 to 3 to 5 inches in there. I'm not really seeing it right now, and it could shift to where it looks a lot more possible. But right now the models are acting a little bit fishy to me, and I'm not ready to buy into that at all. Now, if a more CMC solution plays out, this is showing more like 6 hours of snow, heavy at times, followed by rain. You could get a quick 3-inch accumulation, I think, on this solution. So yeah, I think this is a lot more realistic, this CMC solution. I think 3 to 5 inches on this forecast is a lot more likely. I'm really waiting to switch to short range models for this one. Again, NAM, we could pretty much disregard this. And if you look at the positive snowfall change, it shouldn't be as bad as you see here. Again, this really subtracted a lot of those amounts down there. Really handy feature to be able to look at snow depth instead of total snow. So different. So different. So yeah, this I think I'm willing to say 2 to 4 inches for northern New Jersey, especially Ramsey and northwestward from there. How much snow for Aberdeen and northern Maryland? I really think that Maryland is going to be 1 to 3 inches for the most part. This little western edge here of Maryland, you could be looking at 3 to 6 inches, depending on how this one plays out. We need to get closer to it. Once we're within, once we're within 40 hours, I think there'll be a lot more confidence with the positioning and everything. As of right now, 3 to 6 does look pretty possible here, and then 1 to 3 for those areas. I live at an elevation of 600 feet in Connecticut. Will this affect the amount of snow that I get? Most likely. You'll probably get maybe an inch more than surrounding areas that are more low-lying. Yeah, so coastal regions won't get anything near what you're going to get probably. How much snow for NYC? I think 1 inch, maybe 2, as of right now. How much snow for Rochester, New York? I mean, anywhere in upstate New York, it really just depends. I think upstate New York, some areas are gonna, like right now, this model, for instance. Let me draw on this just to give you guys a better representation of what I'm talking about. Whoops, not that. So it has a lack of precipitation in these areas, and that doesn't mean that it's actually going to be too warm or you're going to have mixing issues. That's actually just that there's not enough precipitation. Good old not enough precipitation. Most of that precipitation stays in the Adirondacks and then kind of, south of that area into the Catskill region. And you can kind of make out where the heavier precipitation is according to the NAM. So yeah, it really just depends. There should be an area that gets 1 to 3 inches in upstate New York, and then there'll be an area that's more like 6 to 8. And I mean, with this one, I think this one's going to be the strongest of the season, and that keeps happening where we're seeing the strongest of the season over and over again, obviously, because we're getting deeper into winter. So I think this will be maybe the first storm where we have to pull out the 10 to 15 inch forecast range. I think it's 10 to 15, maybe like 10 to 14 or something. 10 to 12, I don't know. Will there be snow on the border of Virginia and North Carolina? I do not think so. I think you'll see flakes and maybe a minimal accumulation, but nothing like what you've most likely heard or seen reported. Yeah, weather tracker. I've been talking basically this whole live stream about how bad the models have been doing with total snowfall, and how we kind of have to disregard the GFS and FV3 GFS at this point for this storm so far. So if the NAM is correct, can we be seeing a major snowfall for Long Island? I was looking at the picture, and it looked like a major storm to the NAM. Right, so you most likely saw me switch to the snow depth, and that really changed everything. Because you're going to be looking at a lot more rain mixing in. I think you'll see your first flakes, though, for sure. Again, this is snow total, which takes sleet into account, and then we switch to snow depth, and you see a lot of those areas kind of melt away. See, Western Maryland gets a lot of snow to start, then we'll mix in, right? But I'm kind of not buying that solution just yet. It's like maybe three hours of snow, and then really just a lot of sleet, and then rain, and then it has this kind of unrealistic snow shower thing here where it's too low resolution. So we have to kind of disregard that. So we'll stop it at this point. So maybe right about there. I'm thinking maybe 3 inches for you. I really feel like this is a 3-inch storm. I'm pretty familiar with that area. I know that the higher elevation is more north of Winchester right here, and throughout these areas where it's really high elevation. So maybe looking at about 3 inches. I'm just trying to stay realistic here. Northern Maryland snowfalling. Yeah, I think this will be another storm where you guys get quite a bit of snowfall here. As a jet's about to go by, I live in Norfolk, Virginia, so I apologize for that. Or in the Norfolk, Virginia area. It's actually not the city I live in. So, but we do have a lot of jets here, so that's probably what you're hearing. Now I'm doing this because I actually want to copy a link that Christopher shared again. I have so many tabs open. I think that's why my computer is like literally dying as we speak. $39 likes, 2 dislikes. I appreciate all of you. Probably people disliking because I'm not calling for snowfall for Virginia, but that's okay. I get it. I was a kid once too. So I'll try to load that up as I continue to read. All right. Thanks, Christopher. So I'm about to copy a link and paste it here. If you click on that link, it'll take you to our Facebook group, or at least should. Yeah, it should work. That looked a little iffy with the ... at the end, but maybe it will work. My computer's being really slow. Okay, yeah, so that one didn't work. So don't click that one. I think if I click on his, it'll work though. There you go. Okay. So if you click the second link that I sent, that should take you to our Facebook group where we have many weather discussions that you could be a part of. It'd be very fun. So I recommend doing that. I'll send photos to your email of Western Maryland. I think 5 to 10 inches of snow, then ice even in Valley here. Yeah, go ahead and do that. I really don't typically allow people to do that, or even if they did, I wouldn't believe them, because a lot of people will, like, measure in snow drifts and stuff to try to make it look like more, all sorts of fun stuff like that. But go for it. I do have official ways of finding the actual snowfall, so even if you did try to mislead me there, it wouldn't really work, so that's okay. But you can go ahead and do that. Will you make it snow in New Mexico, please? I can't really do that. Delaware, how much snow for Delaware? Delaware, I think you could get up to 1 inches in northern Delaware there, but southern Delaware, I'm not really looking at much at all there. How's long range looking after the storm? Now, long range forecasting has been a struggle, according to, or the modeling has been a struggle there. The models, what they've been showing. So it's I've been kind of disregarding it past the medium range for a while. That's why there hasn't been a lot of long range forecasts, because they've been kind of flip flopping. So there's not a lot to go based off of, but they're showing up. It's that PNA that's been driving the pattern, and the PNA, if I'll pull it up. It doesn't help that the European has been unreliable. Now the GFS is what I'll use here. Again, these are our jet streams. This is our northern jet. So this is kind of where our storm is. This right around there. Or actually, it's like here. Then we kind of get a trough heading towards the 19th. And it kind of weakens, and then there's like another trough there for the 22nd, but more of a flat period there, where I think it'll just be cold in New England, kind of more mild for the southeastern United States. And then we see this trough up against the west coast here. That's called a negative PNA, and this really brings warmer conditions to the eastern United States, and it most likely will on the 24th, 25th. And you see this kind of ridge here. So yeah, that'll bring warmer conditions here, likely 60s and 70s coming back to some of you in the southeast. Now, we see that kind of move out, and then positive PNA again. This is where there's a ridge up against the west coast, and then we see this big trough in the east here to end November. And then that kind of moves out, and it's kind of, can't really tell what's going on there. So it's really been a struggle, and I expect a lot to change there, but at least it looks like we'll be cold through about the 20th. It looks like we'll be cold in the east through the 20th, and then it's kind of a question mark. They want to show it get a little bit more mild, and then cold again by the 27th. That's what we're looking at right now. You will learn Western Maryland, Eastern West Virginia tends to stay snow longer because warm air don't make it over higher mountains to west. I don't think I need to learn anything. I think you need to learn how to spell correctly. But roasting aside, I think, yeah, I know. That's why I'm calling for you to get 3 inches in surrounding areas to get, 1 to nothing. Because I think you will get the most because you're in the mountains. I just think that it's not going to bring quite as much cold air as the models are showing right now. So everywhere is kind of less, rather than you just being closer to the low elevation areas. There's still going to be the same contrast of snow coverage. I think Rhode Island, I think you could see your first flakes, but you know, maybe northern Rhode Island trying to get an inch there, but not too much. Weather NLO 78. I can't really tell you what the weather will be like on Thanksgiving, unfortunately. How much snow for NYC? I think about 1 to 3 inches, but probably 1 to 2, probably not 3. Do you think that the forecast could change in favor of more snow? Yes, I do. Specifically, I think if I had to split it up, I think that a lot of areas in this region could be looking at more snow than what I'm thinking right now, judging based off of where the low pressure system tracks. Now, the models, they have the low pressure system tracking something like this, and that typically brings a lot of snow to these blue areas, but they have a lot of that precipitation kind of staying well offshore. That's specifically the GFS I have in mind. If we gain more confidence that the precipitation is going to stay right here and kind of head on shore at multiple points here, push heavy bands on shore, then you're looking at a lot heavier snow and precipitation for these areas, specifically the northern half, because the storm will already be developed. So I think this could be another New England special. We'll have to see for sure. I think that Chambersburg, you could get 1 to 3 inches of snow followed by some ice for sure. Patrick Kelleher, old pal of mine from an old Facebook group. How much snow for Bozeman, Montana on Friday? I'll take a look. Now, Friday, I typically would use the RGEM model, but the RGEM model does not go out very far. So I'm going to kind of get an idea here. All right. Yeah, I also wanted to mention that I do see the West getting a lot more active very soon. So that's probably why something will be happening Friday to Saturday. Well, it's 240 hours. I don't know why I even tried. Oh, wait. Am I looking at next Friday here? No? Oh, here we go. Okay, I see. Yeah, I think anywhere from like 1 to 3, 3 to 6 could be in that range for sure. A lot of those higher elevations, like mountaintops will likely approach 10 inches, typical with those areas. But I think low-lying areas, you're looking at 1 to 3. It looks like 3 to 6 in some of those heavier bands. Could get worse, could be not as bad. A little bit less familiar with that area, but yeah, definitely higher elevations, looking at, more of the 6 to 10 range. Winter storm watches are issued for Western Kentucky, I'm sure. That makes sense. You guys, like I said earlier, if you're watching when I was talking about Tennessee, how there would be a little bit of an area of 3 to 6 inches. I think that's more extended here in the Kentucky area, and I like what the GFS is showing, and I agree with it. Curious what the CMC shows. So the CMC wants to keep that a little bit further west, though I like the GFS solution more here, for sure. So I think it's possible that a lot of this western quarter of Kentucky gets, 4 to 6 inches here. Maybe even a little bit of 6+ in there. We'll have to see. Actually, that's snowfall total, so we'll have to Look at the positive snow depth change, like I said. Sorry, wrong one. Yeah, so I mean, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches for this light blue area into the purples seems pretty possible to me. Joseph, David showed it probably, but it's kind of frowned upon in the weather community as you're not supposed to do it, and your channel could get shut down or demonetized. I don't really know how they do it on YouTube, but you could get in serious trouble for using it. A lot of people abuse that rule, but it is a well-known thing that you're not supposed to show the European model. So I kind of stay away from showing it. I did show it in the past, but I've kind of hesitated. And also the European model hasn't been accurate at all lately, so I don't see why I would show it either. I don't think David has a license to show it. I don't know why. I might have to talk to him about that, but yeah, not everything runs on a north to south basis. Like, just because Tennessee is south of you doesn't, I mean, they're getting the colder air because the trough is behind here. So your cold air is placed right here is the trough's going to be moving in. So yeah, they are going to be looking at some snow for these areas. Whereas DC, you're really close to the coast, and there's a lot of other things to factor in, like precipitation. Also, the low pressure system tracking really close to you, even if it was below freezing at the surface. I really think you'll have a lot of sleet issues in here, in the DC Baltimore area, and anywhere south of there, anywhere south and east of there, that is. So if I looked at see how, like, when we're talking about the low pressure system right here, even if you're below freezing at the surface, you're sleet in all of those green areas, no matter what. And especially if we see this layer is, so this is rain, no matter what, actually, on both of these. Actually, I want to go to precipitation type just because this will be a good lesson. No. So looking at DC, for instance, I want to go to where it's actually showing snow. Yeah, so this is looking like very wet snow or some serious sleet issues in here, and then it freezes at this level. I don't expect you to completely understand what I'm showing you right now, but I see a lot of ice issues here, definitely, for DC. Barely any snow, it looks like. And then same thing goes here for the central regions. This is around Stanton, Virginia, I believe. And, I mean, you're maybe looking at snow there for those areas, but, I mean, it's right on the edge. Like, this is definitely sleet right here. And then that's possibly sleet. Possibly sleet. And then that's rain for sure. So, yeah, it's really important to look at all the layers and see the temperatures. Thanks, Christopher, for sharing the link. Definitely click on one of those links that Christopher shared. That'll take you to our Facebook group where you can request to join the weather discussion. How much snow for Long Island? I think 1 inch, maybe 2 in some areas. How much do you think for Rhode Island? I think 1 to 3. Really closer to 3 inches in that northwestern high elevation area of Connecticut. Yeah, so Christopher, that's for the Northeast. You know, the GFS has been overdoing things for Virginia and North Carolina, for sure. I have a big feeling this one's going to be kind of a New Hampshire, Maine special as well, like we've been having. Northern VA, I think you might make out with about 1 inch. Northern Maine, I think you could get, another 4 inch, 5 inch storm with this one. Unless you're like extreme northern Maine, you might be looking at lack of precipitation, which would probably put you closer to 3 inches. But I think this could be another like 4, 6, even 8 inch storm for you guys, like you've been having. Right, Caden does weather. I'm not buying any snow in low elevation areas for Tennessee. I'm not even buying very much snow for high elevations in Tennessee. Yeah. Maybe some snow showers there after the storm's all said and done and the cold set in. You see a lot of your mountains. And if we look at a sounding here, yeah, that's definitely sleet and it's about as sleet as it gets, actually. Yeah. So definitely, I think even the mountains will struggle to get snow here in Tennessee, North Carolina. I think same thing goes here for Southern Virginia as far as the mountains go. Yeah, definitely a big sleet storm, maybe even freezing rain. Thanks everybody for requesting to join the group, by the way. Thomas doubting watch weather. The NWS probabilistic forecast for mountains of Virginia show a low end forecast of 0 for snowfall and a high end forecast of 8 inches. I guess that is because we will be near the freezing mark. No, I think that's because they want to show the absolute most that's possible on the high end. So don't take that into account, because that's absolutely like if something crazy happened. And also 0 inches is as low as it can go. So most likely what they're expecting you to get is also pretty close to 0 inches. You're thinking too hard about the low end part when it can only go to 0. So 0 most likely, they're expecting there's probably like a 50% chance you're getting 0 inches of snow most likely. In North Jersey area of Passaic County and Morris County area, they said that snow would start around 1 and end at 8. Then they said 2 hours of freezing rain, sleet, and said a lot of rain. But the temperatures are only going to be 33 to 34 degrees. So I didn't get how it will be rain. Well, because the middle layers of the atmosphere are going to be above freezing as well, which would lead to rain. Piedmont of North Carolina, I don't think you're looking at any snow. Maybe some flakes. NYC looking at maybe 1 or 2 inches. Christopher, I think there's the FV3 GFS is having major glitching issues. Major glitching issues here. And I mean, I can't really look at this to even reference it to you. Actually, I can. I don't know why I couldn't a second ago. But it's having a lot of issues with precipitation type here, at least for Virginia and North Carolina. And I really like what it's doing in the northern half of the East Coast, though. I do agree with that more so, at least. What model is doing the best on this storm so far? Well, I can't really say which one's doing the best on this storm until the storm's over with, but I know for a fact that the RGEM has been doing the best on previous storms. The RGEM and the HDRPS, if that's how you say it. I don't even. HRDPS. Yeah, sorry. So that model has been doing really well as well. Yeah, so Mauricio, again, the FV3 GFS is an experimental model that's been acting up for this one, and it's really confused. It's calling for sleet in these areas, and it's really just adding a 10-to-1 ratio of snow because the snow total forecast takes the sleet into account, which it shouldn't. So if we look at does this one not have a snow depth? Yes, this one doesn't even have a snow depth. So yeah, a lot of things wrong. Sorry if you already answered, but what would you say for Western Massachusetts in the valley? Just curious how the valley could affect the snow accumulations. Yeah, it depends which valley for sure, but I think, everywhere in Massachusetts, north and east or north and west of Boston, I think you're looking at 1 to 3 inches. There's a good chance of it at least. Coastal Connecticut snowfall, I think you're looking at, 1 inch maybe. Could be more, could be less. What's the chance of Southern Maryland getting thunderstorms? I don't really know. I don't think Boston will see 3 to 6 inches. I think Boston will probably see 1 to 3, if anything. Upstate South Carolina, I think you could see flakes, if anything. I'm disregarding the FV3 GFS and NAM just based off of history and the fact that the more reliable models so far this year aren't showing anything for you. So I don't know why I'd all of a sudden start relying on models that have been awful so far. Do you think the forecast could change to favor more snow in the Mid-Atlantic? Uh, as far as Virginia and North Carolina, I mean, it's possible, but it really looks like a sleet and ice storm to me. Probably wet and heavy for Boston. I haven't even looked at the Weather Channel's forecast for this one. I will in a minute, though. Thomas, you could be looking at maybe 1 inch in the Shenandoah Valley Mountains of Virginia, maybe 1 to 3 inches. I think Northern Virginia, you could be looking at 1 to 3 inches, probably closer to 1. I really don't think South Delaware will see anything. I really don't. Um, don't know why that popped up. Again, for the Piedmont of North Carolina, I don't think you'll see anything. Maybe flakes, if anything. Yeah, I think Jenny Sweet McDonald. Think you'll be looking at a pretty good snow event, pretty similar to what you've had in these past two storms for Vermont. I think 1 to 3 inches, maybe even 3 to 6 is pretty possible for you. So if the temperature goes down about 5 degrees for what it will be now, will it all snow and no mixing? This is for Jersey and Long Island. Well, as long as the low pressure system tracks that close to you, no, it won't matter. As we've seen when I clicked on the soundings for the mountains of Tennessee, it was 28 degrees there, and it's still calling for sleet and freezing rain just because of the low pressure system being near there. Uh, so Boston could be looking at 3 to 6 plus. No, I don't think so. Chris Norton. Wow, was he not answering the questions in the chat? No, actually, currently I'm 15 minutes behind in the chat. That's my problem. So I'm getting to all of them, but yeah, it's taking some time. Piedmont, North Carolina will not see snow, most likely, again. Trying to find some more notable comments. Oh yeah, shout out to my friend Justin. He has a channel. Made sure to mention that. He has a channel. It's called 22Q Syndrome Awareness. You can go subscribe to him. And he brings awareness to his disease, I believe, in his channel, which is really cool. I'm definitely for that. Like me of you, I don't even want to show the European model because first off, it's still the 12Z model, so it's behind, and also it's been doing awful, so it's not going to really be helpful. Jonathan Ruffing, wet, heavy snow in Boston. Yeah, you can predict that by looking at how warm the temperatures will be when the snow falls. So what I meant by heavy snow is after it accumulates, it'll be heavy to pick up, not that it will be heavy falling snow. So really, as we look at this, sorry, I don't know what that's all about. When the snow's falling and it's at this hour, we see that these lines are really close to this dashed line, this red line. The closer it is to that, the heavier and wetter the snow. If it gets really far away from that, then usually we're looking at the dry, powdery snow. So when it's close like this, that means that we're a lot closer to the freezing line. And that usually means that the snowflakes will be a little bit more moist and they'll tend to stick to each other and create bigger snowflakes. And that's usually wet, heavy snow as well. So that's how I forecast that. And it tends to be very accurate. So yes, there is a way to predict that. Will there be snow on Thursday on all if New York and Boston? I think 1 to 3 inches for both of those areas. How much snow do you think is coming for western suburbs of North Virginia? I think 1 to 3. When could Delaware see the snow? I think if you see any, I think the NAM will give me a better timing here. Actually, I'll use the 3 km. And I'll zoom in real quick. Yeah, maybe Thursday morning. Moving in, and by Thursday afternoon, it's going to be all rain. Gorham, New Hampshire. Yeah, you'll be looking at a lot of precipitation for this one. I don't know if that's southern New Hampshire or northern New Hampshire or White Mountains, central New Hampshire. But if you're central New Hampshire or northern New Hampshire, I think you're looking at a lot of snow from this one. Maybe close to 6 inches, 6 to 8 inches from this one. Southern New Hampshire, though, I think maybe 2 to 4 is a better guess. Uh, if they calling things too close, chances are they won't happen. What do you think for Rhode Island? I think 1 to 3. I mean, sorry, Northern Rhode Island. Maybe you could be getting about 1 inch. Southern Rhode Island, I think flakes, if anything, for you guys. I think you might start as a mix for coastal regions. Yeah, William Logan, I only expect that amount to go up there for you guys unless the precipitation stays south of you. 3 to 5 is a pretty safe bet, though. I think it could go above 5, though. You might have to be put into that 6 to 8 range if things look to intensify more as we get closer to this event. William Logan, that's crazy. I did expect that somewhere in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, or northern Maine would see 10 inches. So I'm really happy to hear that you did get 10 inches. That makes me feel quite confident, actually. Uh, Trying to get to the more relevant comments, guys. I apologize. Because I'm still 7 minutes behind. Pittsburgh forecast. That's interesting. Yeah, I think you start out as kind of a wintry mix, maybe some flakes. And you might be looking at a serious icing event here. But as we get closer to the storm, I'll be able to give you a more specific forecast as far as icing amounts and things like that. Yeah, me too. NYC. You guys have a whole discussion going on down there. How much for northern Massachusetts, if you could answer? Really just depends if you're western or eastern. Eastern, I think you're looking at maybe 1 to 3. Western, I think you could be looking more like 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 6 inches. In NY, it rained so much. Are you talking about this previous storm? Hey, Direct Weather, I'm wondering when will Lower Michigan get some good snow? Actually, interesting you mentioned that. I'm looking for possibly some Clippers, Alberta Clippers, to move through. That could possibly bring you some snow. Yeah, so right there, this will maybe be a 1 to 3 type thing for you. Yeah, so if you're in the southern regions of Michigan, you maybe be looking at 1 to 3 inches. And then if you're in the northern Michigan regions, you're maybe looking at 1 to 3 inches from this next one that hits around the 20th. So there's a few good shots there. Baltimore and Central Maryland will get no snow. I really think it's maybe a 1 inch, if anything, type event for Central Maryland and Baltimore. Western suburbs of VA, you're maybe looking at 1 to 3 inches, maybe. Probably closer to 1 inch, though. What is your opinion on weather folklore? I've never heard of him. Well, I'll have you know, Jack, I've been calling for 1 inch to maybe 3 inches for you this entire time, so I stay quite reliable. How much snow for Upper Hudson Valley? You know, you might be looking at 3 to 6 inches. Could go up, could go down. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to head out for this one because I think I answered everybody's questions here that I wanted to answer. I saw TWC forecast, and we are to get 3 to 5 inches with sleet mixed in. What is your take on that? I'm the one from Bethlehem. I'm close to Peaburg, New Jersey. Yeah, I think it really just depends where that is. Is that northern Jersey or southern Jersey that you're close to? Are you closer to Philadelphia or more like Ramsey, New Jersey? And BC Dream, what is your question? Alexander Castillo, I live in Virginia. After I answer these last couple questions, I'm going to head out. South Central Kentucky, I think you might be looking at 1 inch maybe. It just depends how far west you are. It really just depends. It could happen anywhere. I think December's turning towards more and more cold for the east. It's leaning more towards that. Even the CFS, the usual warm bias model, is even showing colder in the east for December. So I'm starting to lean more toward the colder December. I think it'll be slightly below average temperatures for the east. Nothing too frigid. I think January will be quite similar, and then I think February is really where we're going to get really below average temperatures. South Central Pennsylvania, I think you're looking at 1 to 3 inches, probably closer to 3 inches. Michael Beckley, I already have, and I think it overdoes things. If you look at the snow depth, though, you've most likely looked at total snowfall, where you see a lot of snow. But we need to look at the positive snowfall depth here. This is actual accumulated snow. Sorry to crush your dreams here, but yeah, not looking at like the same amount that you would think on the total snowfall. BC Dream, basically what I'm getting at is there will be a better chance at snow, but that doesn't necessarily mean there will be more snow. This one for Northeast PA, I am buying a pretty snowy solution for you guys as of right now. Looks like all the models are on board with a pretty good snowstorm. And this time of year, it's not too out of the question. So it really just depends if North Central PA gets a lot of the snow or Northeast Pennsylvania gets a lot of the snow, because this solution isn't really going to give you too much. So if this trends a little bit east on the CMC, you're looking at pretty good amounts. And I'm almost certain the GFS, yeah, looks a little bit better for you. But if we look at the total positive depth, sorry, I mean, that's a 24-hour one. So that's not going to be too accurate. If we look at this one, yeah, so looks like low elevations closer to 3 inches and higher elevations closer to 6 inches. Michael M. Yeah, not a lot to mention about the lake effect event. I think it's going to cut a dagger straight through New York, if that's what you're talking about. It's going to be really spotty, just like all lake effect events. Very hard to pinpoint where it'll fall. Alexander Castillo, if you still believe AccuWeather that far out, I think that you don't really check your forecasts after they happen, I guess. You don't really fact check them because they've been very inaccurate for a long time, especially if you're looking at the daily forecast that far out. Whereas I've nailed, I think it's going on 3 monthly forecasts in a row now. You may want to check on that. And not that you do that a lot, apparently. The area in PA I'm in at the moment, not my farm, is going to see more snow than my farm allegedly. My farm is north in the mountains. Well, I think I'm disregarding the GFS, and so it really just depends where in northern Pennsylvania. But I think on a more realistic note, the further north in Pennsylvania you are, the better. The GFS is having major issues where it's showing the precipitation kind of go offshore. I mentioned this in the very beginning of the live stream, where it kind of just it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You look at the upper air here, you see all this energy built up over the United States. So you would usually move down a layer and expect to see a lot of that precipitation still built up where the energy is. But no, it goes way offshore, and this isn't very realistic. If you look at the CMC, it's a whole lot more precipitation on the United States, and it's kind of a more balanced. It keeps both sides with a lot of precipitation there, and it keeps that precipitation quite close to the low pressure system for a lot longer. So definitely a lot more realistic solution. Right, so the GFS isn't my favorite model right now. The CMC has actually been doing the best in my opinion. And this is what I'm looking at as of right now on the CMC. A little overdone, I think, in these greens. So if you subtract the greens and maybe pull the pink a little bit, take that western edge off a little bit, I think you're kind of looking at the forecast. I think it's a little overdone for Boston, New York, and those eastern fronts. But besides that, this is kind of what my snowfall forecast is looking like right now. If you take away a little bit of snow in everywhere. When do you think Southwest North Carolina will have significant snow? Thanks. I don't really know yet. Could happen anytime here in late November into December. Could take till, closer to January. Do you trust Old Farmer's Almanac? No. I think it's interesting, though. Do I trust the National Weather Service? I trust their forecasts. Their seasonal forecasts, though, I think they're too generalized, and they don't factor in a lot of things, I don't think. So, Silver Ghost, yes, we will have a winter like 2014 to 2015, most likely. BC Dream, yeah, they'll be uploaded around the same time frame, but my final winter forecast I'm expecting to be out in the last week of November as well as the December forecast. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and head out because I think my dinner's done. So it's been great answering you guys' questions again. Make sure to go to our Facebook group and join it. It's called Weather Freaks. You can go ahead and join that on Facebook. Just search that up. Michael Beckley, I think there's like under a 1% chance that the FV3GFS could be right. And BC Dream, ask the question. I'll answer it in the messages there. I'll reply to it for you. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.